call the meeting to order. I wish everybody a happy Earth Day one day late. There's some business to attend to, but first let's do a roll call. Sharon, could you call roll, please?
Okay, and if everybody, all the panelists, all the board members, please momentarily unmute yourself. All right, Demita Beth Taylor. Heidi Campbell. Robert Deal.
Here.
Jennifer Hackett.
Here.
Midori Lockett.
Here.
Jeff McCormick.
Here.
Beth Reardon.
Here.
Jason Repture.
Here.
Lisa Smith. Michael Sullivan. All right, Chair, we have a quorum.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sharon. Since we are jumping into a new way of doing business, and first of all, I want to thank Sharon and everybody on her team to help make this happen. I want to, for those of you who are on the test run, and for folks who may be listening in, I want to explain the voting, just to make sure we're all on the same, and everybody understands it. So when there is a motion, whoever is going to make the motion and who's going to second it, you need to raise your hands. And the little hand button is the little hand. You can see it down in the right-hand corner of your screen of the box. Hopefully everybody can see that. You can. I just raised mine. Everybody can try and raise theirs. Robert just raised his. So that's the first thing. And then once we actually, if in fact there is a second, and we need to then take a vote, Sharon's going to read your name. I'll ask for all the A's first. Sharon will read through, and you need to identify yourself, you say your name and say your vote. And then the same thing with, then we'll ask for the no's as well, and the same thing. If you're going to vote no, you have to unmute yourself and say no, and say who you are and say no. So that's the process. If there's any issues you have, you can always call Sharon. On the side, she has, you can call her office number, Sharon 862-8715, I believe. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so if there's anything that kind of goes sideways with you, just call Sharon. If you can't figure it out, just on the phone. With that, the first thing we have to do is, before we jump into the business, we have a motion that I believe Terry is going to tell us what it is, and then we're going to ask, we're going to need a board member to actually offer that motion. So Teresa Castanes, Terry, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
So that is correct. So we are able to hold this meeting electronically or virtually rather than in person because of the governor's executive order 16 that allows us special dispensation from the Open Meetings Act to be able to do it that way. And that executive order requires there to be a finding made by the commission at the beginning of the meeting that the items on the meeting agenda constitute essential business of this body, and meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. And we do need a motion to that effect.
Okay, so thank you, Terry. And so I'll entertain a motion to that, to adopt that. Jeff McCormick is, can you say your name? Jeff, I see your hand up.
Jeff McCormick.
So Jeff McCormick offers the motion. Is there a second? Jason Repture, can you say your name, please?
This is Jason Repture, and I second.
Jason seconds it. All in favor? Sharon, will you read the list?
Robert Deal.
Aye.
Jennifer Hackett.
Aye.
Midori Lockett.
Aye.
Beth Reardon.
Aye.
Okay, that's everybody.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. So we're officially underway. I I want to welcome you to the meeting. Thank you very much. Bear with us. As I said, the IT folks and Sharon and her team have done a great job in getting us this far along in it. And Sharon told me today that we are one of the first to have one of all the different boards to have a meeting. And so, as always, the Solid Waste Board leads, right? So here we go. The first thing we have on the meeting is approval of the minutes from December 4th. The chair would entertain a motion to approve them or disapprove. Jason, do you have your hand up for this?
I do not. It was still there from last time.
Okay. Okay. Robert?
Yep, I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Jeff McCormick, I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Sharon?
Jennifer Hackett,
Aye.
Midori Lockett,
Aye.
Beth Reardon,
Aye.
Jason Repsher.
Aye.
All right, everybody has voted for.
Aye. Heidi Campbell.
Oh, Heidi, welcome.
Heidi has joined us. Welcome, Heidi.
Thank you.
All in favor of the motion? We already got that done, didn't we? Okay, let's move on. We have, so Sharon, we are now into the kind of the heart of the meeting where Sharon's going to get an update on our annual report. The usual process we'll go through where the board will have an opportunity to do Q&A. If there's someone who can mute themselves, that'd be great because there's a lot of feedback. I don't know if other people are getting enough. That'd be great. Thank you. There's some feedback there. So we have we'll have the board member Q&A after the presentation. We'll have then public comment. Each person who can, there's several different ways that someone can participate. They can call in and as well as participate, I guess through their computer, through the computer as well. Regardless, when the public comment period comes, each commenter will have 5 minutes, and it'll be exactly like we do in our live meeting, where they identify themselves and they give their comments. And then we'll follow up with board actions. And then we have just a couple of quick updates after that. So with that, Sharon, do you want to turn to our update report?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and welcome to everyone. This is the most casual I've ever dressed for a solid waste board meeting. And it's quite comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that being said, we're getting ready to move into the presentation here. So every year, we are required by law to submit an annual progress report. And for those of you who are relatively new to the Solid Waste Board, and I know we have some people who this may be the first annual progress report meeting that you have been with us, the Solid Waste Management Act of 1991 was state legislation that was passed largely to improve how waste was managed in the state, but also to ensure that recycling and waste diversion took place. The Solid Waste Management Act required counties to form regions. Davidson County formed a single region. There are other counties that formed multi-county regions, and each region was required to develop a 10-year plan. And the 10-year plan would outline how waste would be managed within the region over the 10-year period. But instead of requiring that every 10 years you have to have a new plan, the annual progress report, or what we often refer to as the APR, is a report submitted every year, which provides update to what has happened over the last calendar year, but also is a way that you can update the plan. So in 1995, the Davidson County Solid Waste Region Board created and approved their first 10-year plan. In 2007, we did an update and created a new 10-year plan. And last year, the board adopted Nashville's long-term zero waste master plan, which now is our planning document going forward. Now, all of you have either been able to view the report online, or board members, I emailed you the report. And what the presentation that we're going to give today is not going to talk about every aspect. It's going to kind of hit the highlights of what key things happened in 2019, and also focus largely, as you can imagine, on the disposal and recycling tonnage. So 2019 was probably one of the single most challenging words. Oh, before I begin, I do, and apologize for this, I do want to let folks who are out there maybe wanting to call in, you're watching this online, and you want to call in to provide public comment when we get to that time period. The live number for you to call, which we have folks here will take your call and put you in a queue, is 629-255-1905. And we'll have that on the screen a little later as well, but 629-255-1905. Thank you. So 2019 was a challenging year for recycling. Last year, you all may remember some conversation about changes in recycling markets due to China having actually placed complete restrictions on certain materials they will accept, but also increasing or decreasing rather the amount of contamination that was allowed. And what ended up happening is that cities and counties and recycling programs all over the U.S. saw their revenue for recycling plummet, and the cost for removing unacceptable material or contamination increase. And so 2019 was a year we spent a lot of time working to renegotiate our contract with Waste Management. Some of you may have seen article in the paper today that talked a little bit about the council meeting where on Tuesday where this was discussed. Contamination in Nashville is in the 29% range, which is a lot. The interesting thing is when we first started this program in 2002, our contamination rate was extremely low, and that was largely because we only accepted paper, cardboard, aluminum, and metal cans. And it was the introduction of plastic and all of the confusion that's around plastic and the recycling symbols and the numbers that has caused over the years for our contamination to increase. So in 2019, we spent a lot of time thinking about recycling contamination. And towards the end of the year, all of our education programs were focused on recycling right. In addition to that, we made the decision to update our acceptable materials to remove items that had previously been listed, but we now realized were actually not recycled. And a lot of those containers that are out there that have, in particular, number 5 or polypropylene plastic, do not have markets, really. There's nobody out there that's interested in buying that raw material. And so I did get some pushback on this, as you can imagine, but the feeling from Metro Public Works is if we are going to put out materials that we are accepting in our recycling program, we don't want to tell people that they can recycle something that we are quite sure is not getting recycled. So with that in mind, we have updated our materials. We've completely updated our website. We are getting ready to roll out new signage at all of our drop-off sites, starting a social media campaign, and trying to help people to understand how to recycle right. Part of that did include cart tagging, which is one of my favorite things. We had a part-time retiree that started this program for us, and now we have a full-time person. as well as the recycling truck drivers. When they see unacceptable material in the carts, they'll put a tag on it and we won't pick it up. People have to look at the tag. They can call into the hub and find out what they need to do, what needs to be removed, and then they can call us back and we'll come out and pick it up. Last year, or over the last year, we've tagged almost 7,000 carts, and we've taken hundreds of carts away from people that were using them routinely for just trash. As part of the information that we have updated on your screens, if you're watching this online, you can see we have cleared, consistent images and appearance, so that when people see the acceptable material, it's all part of the problem we had in the past is that, like, our drop-off signage had some information on it, the website had different information, we had printed materials that was different, and now everything is consistent. Everything at a minimum is in English and Spanish, and a lot of our materials, including all the drop-off site signage that will be going up soon, is in English, Spanish, and also Arabic and Kurdish. We can't expect new Americans to understand how to recycle right if we make it hard for them to understand. So that has been one of our goals. And to be perfectly honest, kudos to Jen Harmon. She took all of this, you know, she was brand new to Public Works, brand new to waste and recycling, and has done a great job, as you can see from the graphics here, making what we're trying to communicate to people as clear as possible. So with 2019 being a very challenging year, we are hoping that the efforts that we were working on now will help to reduce contamination, because one of the key things that is part of the discussion on the contract amendment that is before council is that if we can further educate Nashville residents on how to recycle right, we will reduce the contamination, and that reduces our cost to waste management. So the most important thing for 2020 on recycling is for everybody to help us get the word out on what you can and cannot put your cart. With people needing to understand that this isn't, you know, Public Works trying to be mean, but this is Public Works trying to help people to understand that there's a lot of material out there that just really is not recyclable. And some of you, I know I send articles and things out to folks to look out. There's been a lot of information out there, not just in the media, but individuals that have researched and posted videos, news articles that just shows how plastic has been a confusing issue and how it has been managed or promoted. That plastic recycling has been promoted by the industry for many years in a way that has not only been confusing to people, but really didn't accurately display what you can and cannot put in your recycling cart at your average city and county municipal recycling program. If any of you all have questions about recycling right in Nashville, feel free to reach out to me. And if you know Jen, reach out to her, because our goal is to make it as easy and simple for people to put the right thing in the cart going forward. With that in mind, we will jump right into the excitement of disposal tonnage. Each year we report the tonnage that was landfilled from Nashville and Davidson County. And the chart you're seeing here shows, and I do apologize to take up less space on the screen. I rolled some of the smaller landfill tonnages together, but you can see that, as with every year, we have Middle Point and Cedar Ridge as the two. So that's the Republic landfill and the Waste Management landfill that get most of the waste out of Nashville and Davidson County. This represents not just what Metro Public Works picks up, but this represents all of the waste generated in Davidson County. So whether it's from a business, industry, a school, it's all rolled into these numbers here.
Hey, Sharon, really quickly on this one, you know, the Cedar Ridge went up pretty significantly, almost over 50%. Middle Point dropped and West Camden dropped. What was, is there a reason that there's been such a significant shift, or if we look at it over time, it goes up and down like this, and this is nothing unusual?
I don't think this is terribly unusual, but I do know that Republic is trying to manage the amount of waste coming in to expand some life in their landfill. So that is the Middle Point landfill. You know, Metro does have a contract with Republic, and even though our contract is for them to accept the waste at their transfer station, a lot of that waste is clearly going to Middle Point, and they are working to ensure that they have at least 7 more years at that landfill. So I do believe that there's been a little shift here in where waste is going.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
And now we move to the construction and demolition waste. And as always, the big winner here is Southern Services, which is the only landfill we have in Davidson County. And it is a construction and demolition landfill. We do have small amounts of waste going to other landfills. And there will be an amendment to this chart. There is actually I misspoke. There's another small C&D landfill in Davidson County on Central Pike. They suffered some damage to their building and have had a delay in, I believe it was tornado. They are actually out in the Hermitage area and had a delay in turning their information into the state. So our tonnage will go up. I would guess a few thousand tons. They don't have a huge amount of waste like Southern Services does, but they do process or accept a small amount of C&D waste. Sort of anecdotally, the tornado that passed through Nashville a few weeks ago, as you can imagine, will impact the tonnage at Southern Services, and I'll talk a little bit more about the tornado later, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see an increase in 2020 because of the tornado, and we'll be able to talk more about that towards the end. On our recycling side, the first chart you see here is going to be residential recycling, which is Public Works and the satellite cities that report or have recycling programs, as well as other metro recycling programs. You can see from looking down at this, there's up and down in different categories. I am very happy that this year we are also showing food waste. I'll talk a little bit more about food waste in a second. But overall, a slight increase in our total tonnage. We had a little more wood waste, and that's where the majority, so that's from the Metro brush collection program. That's where the majority of that increase came from in 2019. So in 2018, we started a food waste drop-off. Actually, we first started with a food waste collection at our Public Works Administration building, and after several months of sort of experimenting at our building, we opened 2 sites, one at the East Convenience Center and one at the Omohundro Convenience Center. And we had we got a contract with the compost company to provide collection service, and residents were able to drop off food waste instead of composting in their backyards. Last year, we increased, and unfortunately, in 2018, we did have 12 tons, but we didn't report it. So total screw up on my part, but we are going to be reporting it going forward. 2019, we expanded to all 4 convenience centers, and late in 2019, we actually had to put a small dumpster at the East Convenience Center for food waste, which is very exciting. So you can see we almost doubled our tons from 2018 to 2019. And it's interesting. 2 days ago, I got a call from a gentleman who had been helping with a food distribution site for the homeless. There had been a fair amount of food waste. He had collected it. He was wanting to get rid of it, but because we have had to, for public health and our employee safety, adjust the convenience center hours, we hadn't been able to drop it off. We've worked it out so he can, but I was pleased to know that somebody I don't even know that I'd ever met before was so interested in trying to help divert food waste from landfills. And I think it goes a long way to say that a lot of people in Nashville, and this is largely because of NRDC and the new partnership with Urban Green Lab, helping people to understand the importance of not only feeding hungry people, but also making sure that food that is still edible can be donated, and food that is not should be composted and not landfilled. We have been very fortunate to have had some great partnerships in the organics area. This next slide shows the commercial recycling, which is all the private recycling that we are able to gather. Clay Hand spends a lot of time trying to pull this information together. We are always quite sure that there is data out there that we haven't been able to find. Fortunately, TDEC has been able to do a lot to help us get numbers from some of the large retailers like Walmart and Kroger that we've kind of struggled to get in the past, and that's been extremely helpful. So the numbers that you see here are a combination of all different kinds of businesses that pick up or recycle or are involved in waste and recycling. There was a pretty significant decrease this year that was partially from, and you can see this here, the scrap metal going down, cardboard going down, and also we had a decrease in our mixed paper, which was the most significant. And we did spend a lot of time talking to the recycler, trying to understand why the paper number went down. At this point, we do not have a good answer for why it went down, but that has shown a pretty big decrease in the overall tonnage of what we're reporting from the commercial sector. So this is one of my favorite little graphs that we can show every year, because what this does is it shows you a breakdown of all of those things we just talked about: the C&D landfilling, the municipal solid waste, both the commercial and metro, as well as the private recycling and the residential or the public recycling. And part of the reason that we have struggled over the years, and I know that a lot of this came up in the solid waste master plan, is metro controls such a small portion, and it's shrinking because the commercial sector in Nashville keeps growing. And I think 2 years ago, we were at 19%, and now we're down to 15%. And this doesn't take away the responsibility we have to try and educate and get people moving towards more recycling, but just to help you understand that what we control is such a small portion of what's out there altogether. This is my favorite depressing chart because it shows the trend. The orange line you see is that consistent population trend, and this actually, the numbers I put in for 2019 on population are probably a little low. So there's potentially a slightly steeper curve there on population. And the green line at the top is what we're putting in municipal solid waste landfills, and that purple line at the bottom, as well as the blue line at the bottom, are what's being recycled. As you can see, the overall, as our population grows, our disposal grows, and our recycling, for the most part, remains static, which is an important issue that we talked a lot about during the solid waste master plan planning period, because it's important that we try and find unique ways to not just manage and get more people to recycle, but also try and help foster an understanding of buying less and trying to not generate some of this waste in the first place, which of course is always a challenge. It is my belief that as we move forward in the long-term zero waste plan, we'll start to see changes. There are key policies that are being discussed that would give Metro the ability to move the needle here. but at this point, this is sort of how and where we are, and hope that it will continue to improve in the future.
Great. Well, thank you, Sharon. And I'll open the floor up if any of the board members have questions or comments on what they have just read and heard from Sharon. Jennifer?
Great. Thanks. Yeah. I wanted to ask a little bit about the education efforts. I know that at this moment during the pandemic, there's not really probably very much education occurring, but I'm wondering when we return to normal-ish, are all of these current and ready to resume when we get back to normal?
Yeah, so our website is actually already updated. We had ironically had some plans to mail out a postcard to all residents in Nashville and Davidson County, and the tornado and then the pandemic has sort of caused a change and a diversion to social media. We are trying to do some stuff on social media now, and we've just released a This Not That recycling quiz, which is really kind of fun. And we will try and push out some information about all of these to all the board members. It just was launched like this week. So I think we put it on some social media, but we haven't super pushed it out yet. All of the materials that you see there are either materials that we are printing or that are available to download on our website. The recycling drop-off signs are literally being printed this week. Well, I'm sorry, they've been printed. They're being adhered to the large metal signs. They're large 36 by 36 inch signs. And we have developed, Jen spent a lot of time developing a sort of virtual education website or web page under our community education area where we have activities for adults and children on recycling, doing household audits, and there's some math stuff. There's all kinds of fun things. There's a documentary that is interesting, probably more for high school to adults, and we're trying to find ways to be creative in getting the word out during what is clearly a very difficult time. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Hey, Sharon, is this going to be available to us, this slide presentation?
Yes, it's actually already on the Solid Waste Board's website.
Okay.
I think I emailed it. I may have forgotten to attach it to the email I sent yesterday, but it was my intent to email it out. I will double check and make sure the presentation goes out to everyone.
Great, thanks.
Sharon, this is Jennifer Hackett again. In the things that you sent out to us, there included the TDEC survey questions. Is this when you'd like me to ask about that?
I'm not sure I completely understand what you're saying.
So you sent us the APR PDF, and at the bottom of which, on page 9, there's a section called TDEC survey questions, and there's a question that says, what grants would the county and municipalities like to see TDEC promote in the next 2 years? And so I have a question about that for you. Is this a good time for that?
Yes, absolutely. Okay,
great. So the answers, I take it, are from your office about what we would like to have promoted, and then we, Nashville, will hopefully see some benefit from that. Is that correct?
So there is a checklist of TDEC, traditional TDEC grants, and we can choose from what is listed. We can't add a grant. But I also will say as a disclaimer that TDEC is not always able to offer grants. So some of this is helping them to get information on what types of grants cities and counties are interested in having, so that as they have funding, they're able to work towards adding those grants.
Okay. Can you say what a hub and spoke grant is?
I'm sorry. Hang on, let me mute a couple people here. All right, go ahead. What was your question?
Hub and spoke, like a bicycle tire, it kind of sounds like, but I don't really know what that means and what it has to do with recycling.
Sure thing. So hub and spoke grants, actually recycling facilities are a great example. That is where you have a hub, which could be your recycling facility that is in, let's say, Davidson County, but you partner with the surrounding counties, and Rutherford and Wilson and those surrounding counties together bring their facility into that hub. And instead of having each individual county try and recreate or build their own facility. TDEC offered this grant, I think it was a couple years ago, and it's a really good opportunity for the state to put some money in the pot to try and help the rural counties either join together, or in some cases to help a county like Davidson County or Rutherford County to be a hub for rural counties that are surrounding them.
Other questions? Beth, I see your hand is up.
The recycling, Sharon, where you said that you tag the containers that have, you know, the bad type of recycling materials in them. Is that just the areas that Metro Public Works serves? It's not outside of, say, the downtown area, is it? Do any of the private sectors do this?
I'm not aware of any private recyclers doing this. We do it because we are highly motivated to reduce our processing costs, and
Sure.
It is also a way to educate people. Sometimes people truly don't know that you can't put a bag full of recyclables in your recycling cart. And if you put a bag filled with, you know, good, clean, recyclable material in your cart, that entire bag and all that good, clean material is going to end up in the trash because it just can't be broken open. It can't make it through the sorting system. And so it does give us the opportunity to talk to people about that. I've had the great privilege of talking to a lot of different people who got so angry about it that the call center sent them to me. And it's sometimes very interesting to realize just how confusing plastic is for a lot of people.
Oh, it is. I mean, we deal with that here in Belmead, and you know, people just throw away all kinds of things that they think can be recycled, and you know, there's a portion of plastics, especially, that can't be recycled. But I just wondered if you, when you bid out these contracts, if you could encourage them to do that. I mean, I live in the Bellevue area and pay for recycling pickup. It's not cheap. It actually costs more than my trash pickup with the contractor that I have. And I try to be really conscientious and put the right things in the cart. But if I don't, I'm just wondering, do they just throw the whole cart in the trash then? And I've wasted 2 weeks of putting all this stuff in my recycle cart. There's no way to tell. And I don't think the private contractors have any incentive to make it work. Because I never.
I want to talk with you offline and find out who's picking it up and reach out to them. So
Okay.
if you think about it, shoot me an email and we'll get together, because it just occurred to me that we can share, you know, the graphics and things that we put together. I mean, we'd be happy to share it with Belmead. If we could all of us here on the solid waste board, that especially that represent other cities in Davidson County, we can all kind of use the same material and kind of be all on the same page. But I'll also be happy to talk to the private haulers out there and request that they take our information and reproduce it.
Yeah, I think that'd be very helpful.
I agree. I don't know why I hadn't thought about that before.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'll second that. That would be great for the satellite cities.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm looking at the list here. Do other members have comments? Mr. McCormick. Jeff, we can't hear you if you're speaking.
Beth, just for a note, we do tag ours in Goodlettsville, and our contractor does that. And that he might not, if he catches somebody once, he might not tag them, but if they catches them again, then he'll tag them and call us, and we follow up with the people. So it's very effective. It's got ours way down, but our contractor wants it tagged for the simple reason it costs him more if he takes it to the MRF and then it gets rejected. So
exactly.
They do have an incentive to use the tag.
Okay, well, I might give you a call and see exactly how it works, but that's great. Thank you.
All right. Jennifer, do you have your hand up again there?
I do. I'm wondering, those recycling totals for 2018, 2019 are fairly sad. I thought they were looking pretty gloomy, and I'm wondering if you can remind us, Sharon, what our zero waste master plan timeline is.
So it is obviously a long-term zero waste plan, and theoretically, it is a 30-year plan. There are aggressive options that it would be my preference to focus on. I think it would be wrong for me not to mention that, unfortunately, Metro Nashville has an extremely difficult budget cycle getting ready to come up. Last year was difficult. The year before that was, and looks like FY21 will be even more difficult. And what this means is some of the recommendations that we want to do that are actually supported by members of council and the administration will potentially be delayed because of cost. And it's discouraging, especially to the members of this board and people that have been invested in waste reduction for many years. But unfortunately, it is the reality, and that's one reason why we have tried to focus on the things that are lower cost and that will allow us to try and do more education and try to move the needle. But I assure you, we have some great big ticket items out there that will, I believe, be implemented as soon as we can.
So just to clarify, Sharon, even if we choose the least aggressive, like if we say the whole 30 years is what we're going to have to take in order to get to zero waste, as opposed to a 10-year plan or a shorter plan in between somewhere, when does our time clock begin? Have we already, tell me about that. When is that happening?
So the time clock already began. It began as soon as we approved, well, actually, some of it began before we finished the plan. Going to every other week curbside recycling was a recommendation that was in the plan, but it was preparing to be funded and move forward. Actually, we had originally planned to start it in February of this year, but as you can imagine, even though it had been partially funded and it was planned, there is no money to start that program at this time, and it will unfortunately be further delayed. So the clock is ticking. Internally, we are having meetings with the administration. In a few minutes after the public comment, our chair, John Sherman, will talk about some initiatives that are happening that will also help move some of these things forward. There are things going on on the food waste side as it relates to the private sector that are moving forward. What Kroger has done with their Zero Hunger, Zero Waste has increased the diversion of organics. But I don't know that there could have been a possible worse time to have launched our first year of working on the solid waste plan, and not only to already for the city to be in sort of fiscal straits, but then the pandemic further decreasing revenue. It's absolutely depressing to to really want to move some of these things forward and just not be able to right now.
So Jeff, I see that your mic is off. You're unmuted. Did you have another comment?
No, I'll raise my hand. I have to do a double mute if I have to.
Got it. Okay. Got it. Okay. Other board members, comments? All right. Well, there's a few things I just want to say about kind of what the plan and some of the questions that folks just have been asking about. We all know that we actually went and did the zero waste plan because we wanted to to change the curve. Yes, it's going to yes, we're going to be delayed. However, I'm not too upset about that in terms of we have a really good structure. You created the plan and put we've created a roadmap that we've never had before. And it's a thoughtful roadmap with some opportunities, both long-term, but I think short-term. I think that there are things that won't cost anything to start moving on. The authority, looking at some legislation, both around residential and commercial, increasing the composting amount, doing whatever we can to reduce what we're generating and be able to control locally what we do generate, meaning we have markets for composting. So let's make sure we have that really robustly. We don't have markets locally for all the other stuff, especially plastics. And so how do we make sure that we start building those markets out, or we continue to educate on why certain things shouldn't even be purchased because there's nowhere to go with the landfill. So I think those are really important. And again, I'll talk about that more when we get down to talking about the mayor's sustainability committee. But I also just wanted to make sure we recognize that Davida has joined us. I mean, she's been here most of the meeting. Davida, I think you've been on most of the call. So anyway, welcome. Glad you're here. We almost have a full house, so it's really, I'm glad of that. With that, I think if there are no other board questions or comments, let's turn to public comment. And I'm turning that over to NASA. You got it. You can figure this one out.
Okay, so we did allow people to submit emails. We did not get any email public comments. We are going to allow other folks on this video call to raise their hand. They will see it in the lower right of the screen. But once again, I just want to remind those of you that are wanting to call in, please, if you haven't already, go ahead and call in with your comment at 629-255-1905. And if there are people who are interested in calling in, go ahead and do that. And if you are participating on this but are not a board member and you have comments, please go ahead and raise your hand.
Sharon, I'll reiterate what I said at the beginning too. When you raise your hand, you'll need to do like we always do in a regular meeting. Identify yourself and know that there's a 5-minute time limit per person as shown on the screen for those of you who can see it. So with that, Sharon.
All right, we don't have anybody raising their hand at this time, but we'll wait a little bit here as we want people to have the opportunity to comment. Okay, we still have no one. Chair, we also have no one on the phone.
All right. Well, we will move into the next section then, and that is actually taking action on the annual report. The board would entertain a motion to approve.
All right, looks like Beth Reardon has raised her hand.
Yes, I do make a motion to approve the annual report.
I second the motion.
Okay. Davida, I know you came in late. We're going to need you to unmute, everybody to unmute, and I've got to do a roll vote.
Yes.
So Demita, yay or nay?
Yay.
Heidi, oh, never mind. Robert Deal.
Yay. Aye.
Aye. Okay. Jennifer Hackett.
Yes.
Midori Lockett.
Yes.
Jeff McCormick.
Yes.
Jason Repsher.
Yes.
Lisa Smith.
Yes.
Hey, Lisa.
All right, we've got everyone.
Wonderful.
Hey.
The ayes have it. We've approved the annual report. Thank you very much, Sharon. Thank you, board, for reviewing it and asking questions. We're moving quickly to the last little part of the agenda, which is a couple updates. One on the Mayor's Sustainable Advisory Committee, and Sharon's going to give one on the tornado and a COVID update. I'll speak to the Mayor's Sustainable Advisory Committee, but I know that Sharon has been participating along with me and some other folks. So Sharon, please pipe in as well, and anybody on this call. So the mayor's, a few months ago, the mayor pulled together this Sustainable Advisory Committee, asking not to come up with more plans. As some of you may know, there's several different plans out there in several different sectors to address transportation issues and, of course, solid waste issues, but urban greening issues, several different plans. And the mayor basically said, we don't need any more plans. We just need to do something with all the plans. So he, and kind of to focus that, the first thing to do with all these is to come up with a climate action plan for the city. And so he asked this committee, which is the committee is co-chaired by Eric Capstein from Vanderbilt University, and Linda Bregan, who is with the Environmental Law Institute. And as many of you may know, she was also helping kind of one of the key leads for the food waste initiative at NRDC. There are several different subcommittees. I won't belabor all of them. However, there is one on solid waste. And Todd Lawrence, some of you may know, with the Urban Green Lab, is co-chair along with me of that committee. And as you recall, because I know all of you read all 400 plus pages of our zero waste plan and every appendix, we actually know that by the various actions that our board has taken with the zero waste plan, we're actually reducing the carbon footprint of waste. So, and we know somewhat what those numbers are. We know what we're diverting, and there's formulas to actually measure that. What is the tons diverted into how much carbon and greenhouse gases does that actually avoid being put into the air? So we are going, Todd and myself are chairs of that subcommittee. There's several other members who are representing different sectors on the committee as well. And our job is to come up with a handful of recommendations about what's most important from a waste management perspective to fit into the climate action plan that will be most effective in reducing the carbon footprint from waste. I know that Laurel Creech is on as attendee on this, and Laurel's also been really important in this. And anytime anybody has questions about greenhouse gases and climate issues from the city's perspective, Laurel is the person to contact. I'll leave it at that, Laurel. I want to make sure that folks know that you're the person to go to. But this is a huge opportunity for us to actually, everything we talked about and what's, where we're not going with the plan right now, there's with our zero waste plan, and because of the budget issues, this is an opportunity for us to actually put those, get those into another forum that totally fits with what we're trying to do with waste diversion. It just makes sense, right? You divert more waste, you reduce your carbon footprint from the waste. So over the next 3 months, we're going to come up with, by the end of June, I think, we have to come up with our draft recommendations, with final recommendations being somewhere in the fall. So, and we'll keep you updated on that. But the framework we're using, it's all driven by the solid waste, our zero waste plan. So you have all contributed to what this climate action plan from a waste perspective is going to, what it's going to look like. So we're and as you might imagine, Sharon is the one who's providing a lot of obviously the technical and reasonable comments and input on it. So Sharon and as well as Jen Harmon have both been really helpful. So happy to answer any questions you may have on it, either now or you can bug me anytime. Sharon, I think at some point I would love to be able to show just the spreadsheet that we'll be developing. And I need to ask the full committee if I assume that's fair to share. But I think even if we can't share it now, we'll certainly we'll bring it to a board meeting and share it because it's pretty. I think it'll be really interesting. So
absolutely.
So we got another venue to move the plan, at least certain parts of it. With that, as I said, anybody can just can bug me give me a call or email me. I'm happy to talk about it with you. So with that, Sharon, I'm going to turn it over to you and talk about the tornado and the COVID update.
So very briefly, I just wanted to talk about the tornado. Whenever there's a major disaster like that, we will see a spike in disposal tons the next year. At this point, Public Works and our contractor have picked up just under 300,000 cubic yards of debris. We have made an effort to divert as much of that as possible, so it's all being separated into 3 categories where possible. I mean, immediately after the tornado, there were hands-on Nashville volunteers out there really helping people move stuff, and sometimes we weren't able to get the word out quick enough. So sometimes we did have things that got mixed together, but we asked people to separate tree limbs and sort of tree debris in a separate pile, any sort of metals, white goods, appliances and things that were damaged in a separate pile, and then finally the building debris in a third. So we'll be able in the future to have some better data on, how much of that was diverted. Right now, I just have the just under 300,000 tons total. But our Public Works staff in operations and the contractor have done a fabulous job. Unfortunately, because of the virus, we lost a lot of volunteers right at a key time when people were, needing help clearing debris off their property. And the COVID-19 virus has definitely had kind of an unfortunate impact on tornado victims. The interesting thing, though, is out of the woodwork, so many different really good people show up. And there's actually a gentleman, and I can't remember, he's not from Nashville, but he owns some type of construction company, and he will, if your house is beyond repair, he will come in, he will help knock it down, he will use his equipment to get everything to the street so that our folks can pick it up. It's always wonderful when you see so many people willing to help, which is not just a Nashville thing, it's a Tennessee thing. I mean, we are the volunteer state, and it's just always makes me proud to see people so willing to step up and help. With the virus, as you can imagine, that has completely changed how we are functioning. We've had to limit what we accept at some of our convenience centers. Other surrounding counties had to do the same thing. Not just for employee safety, but also people at home were bored and they started doing household do-it-yourself projects and overrunning convenience centers. We hope that things will start to slowly get back to normal, but I can't imagine what the new normal will look like. But I think as we think about 2020 and think about our report next year, I know we will be able to look back in the tons of recycling and landfill and see some spikes that were very large, likely caused by the tornado and also the COVID-19 virus. And that's the end of my report on those two items.
Great, Sharon. Do any of the board members have questions about Sharon's update?
Hi, this is Danita. I was interested in knowing, due to the tornado and the increased tonnage that will go to the landfill, is there any federal aid that will be coming our way to help with those costs?
Yes. So our finance folks and our operations folks, so Sharon Wallstrom, who you all have met many times, and Philip Jones, who is over our operations division, are working with FEMA. There are some very strict guidelines on how that debris can be picked up and handled. Where our contractor, who we're working with now, is able to follow those guidelines, so we will be seeing money back from FEMA at some point in the future. That being said, and I may be wrong, but I believe it was 2018. It might have been early last year that Metro got their last FEMA payment from the 2010 flood. So that money definitely does not flow quickly, but we will absolutely be able to get help with that. That's a great question.
Great. Other board members?
Beth Reardon? You have your hand up?
And she had her hand up. I think it was from before.
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh, there goes in. So great. Thank you, Sharon, on that. And before we move to other business, I just realized that Katie Poss is one of the attendees, and Katie is on the committee with Todd and myself on the Sustainable Advisory Committee for Waste. And so, Katie, I'm glad you joined us, and we're all in the yoke together on that. So with that, I'm going to turn to other business. Do board members have any other business they'd like to raise? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I have
Lisa,
a couple quick questions. This is Lisa. Hi. I would like to know when the next, I don't know when this will be, but when the next Sustainability Advisory Committee will be.
I don't believe there's a meeting yet out there. Is there, John?
No, it's yeah, it's and is Teresa on the phone, or anybody else from the legal staff here still? Because I know that this is I forget what it's like, but it's not considered a public yet meeting, I don't think. Now, Teresa or Tara,
this is Teresa. So there are some meetings that are not subject to the Open Meetings Act, where a committee is acting as an advisor to a single executive decision maker. It's not subject to the Open Meetings Act. And so it isn't subject to the public notice and attendance requirements of that act, such as the Solid Waste Region Board is.
So, Lisa, if you're interested in participating, I'm more than happy to get you on the subcommittee. So just know that that'd be great. So
yeah, I am interested.
Right.
Wasn't able to participate because I was still limping from surgery, but I'm doing great and ready to jump in.
Great, wonderful, thank you.
All right, John, we have a comment coming from Ashby Barnes at TDEC. I would like to give him the opportunity to speak here real quickly, as it will pertain to our action.
Okay, so I'm sorry, which action are you talking about, Sharon?
Well, before we leave the meeting, I think we need to have another vote.
Okay.
Ashby, can you hear us?
So just when Ashby comes online, we obviously just need to understand who he is and title and all that stuff. So.
Okay, I think, and I'm hoping this is correct, but I think because we found out today that there was additional tonnage that was not included in the report or in the plan that we submitted, that we may have to have a vote to amend the report.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So this is actually about.
So Ashby, can you first identify yourself so everybody kind of knows where you sit in TDEC and please.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm with the Division of Solid Waste Management Materials Management Program. We're the ones that receive the annual progress reports and plan updates. And I just wanted to say that there has to be 2 votes, one for the APR and then one for the plan update. And even if there is not an actual plan update, you just need to vote and say that it's being submitted as is.
I got it. Okay.
So Sharon, can you, first of all, Ashby, thank you for that. So we do have one more piece of business. Sharon, do you want to, would you articulate that as a motion, and then we can put it up for a vote?
So we need somebody to make a motion that to accept the update that is within this annual progress report, which is that we don't have an update, but to accept that into record.
Okay, so we need a motion to accept the update to the APR. Is that right?
And it looks like Lisa Smith has raised her hand.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to, oh, I'm ready.
Please, go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to accept APR as it stands. Should I say with no changes, with no updates?
Yeah, we need a motion to accept the update to the 10-year plan.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to accept the update to the 10-year plan.
Wonderful. All right. Motion by Lisa Smith. Who seconded it? Please raise your hand.
Robert Deal, my hand is up.
I'm sorry, Robert. You're too far down on my list, I guess. Sorry about that. Okay, it's been seconded. Sharon, I can't. My screen's small, guys. Sorry. Sharon, will you please go through and all in favor?
So Demita Beck-Taylor.
Aye.
Heidi Campbell.
Aye. Aye.
Jennifer Hackett.
Aye.
Midori Lockett.
Aye.
Jeff Campbell. Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff McCormick. Oh dear. Sorry, Jeff. Beth Reardon.
Aye.
Jason Repcher.
Aye.
That's it.
Good. The ayes have it. Motion passed. Thank you for bearing with us to get that little piece of business cleared up. Again, it does not appear that we have any other business, and I will. Jeff, do you have your hand up?
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. McCormick has offered a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second, this is Demita.
Demita seconds it. All in favor? Sharon, read the list, please.
Heidi Campbell.
Aye.
Robert Deal.
Aye.
Jennifer Hackett.
Aye.
Midori Lockett.
Aye.
Beth Reardon.
Aye.
Jason Repcher.
Aye.
Lisa Smith.
Aye.
Wonderful. All right, meeting is officially adjourned. Hopefully when we meet next, sometime in the next few months, we will be able to do it in person. Thank you all and for your patience and
Face to face.
yeah.
Face to face, even with masks.
That's right. All righty. So long, everybody. Thank you again.
Goodbye, y'all. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.